just thanks for being here, and special thanks to Rochelle for organizing. And before I start, I just want to say that every time that I come to Wellington, I get jealous. Like, there's way too many cool things happening here, from food to music to like all purposely, amazingly driven work, both within government and outside government. So yeah, I guess hopefully one of the purposes that I had from this trip is to take some of that magic and bring it back to Melbourne. So my name is Alvaro. I'm from an organization called Code for Australia. Had anyone heard about Code for Australia before this thing? Cool. I know you have, Craig. And is anyone here from government? Right, okay. So I'm going to make an apology to you guys, as the first part of my presentation is going to paint a slightly bleak picture of government, but hold on, there is a happy ending. I have ruined the story already, but anyway, just hold on tight. So our mission, as the slide says, is to help Australian governments find new ways of opening, or to find new ways to solve all problems. Some people may call it digital transformation, some people may call it disruption or innovation. We tend to stick away from buzzwords because we know innovation is the new, this is something that I read, the new teenage sex. Everyone claims to have done it, but the reality is a bit different. And we also like to think that we are making government sexy. So Code for Australia is barely almost 2 years old. We're about to celebrate that. But we're part of a global network called Code for All, where we believe that civic technology plays an integral role in allowing people to meaningfully engage in the public sphere. These are all the countries where there is a Code for Country program. There is Australia there, and it all started 5 years ago by Code for America, and now we're just part of this global movement. Just like innovation and disruption and digital transformation is a new thing, so are cities. I am not a developer. I don't have a technology background. I'm an urban planner, which may come to a surprise to a few of you, but hopefully by the end of this, it will make sense why that is. So it's all about improving cities, and whilst livability indicators in Australia have keep going up, now there's not only Melbourne scoring pretty high, but Sydney and even Canberra, and Adelaide, but urban planning remains one of the most ancient and most expensive industries there is around the world. When I worked as an urban planner, there were paper applications, there was a case manager assigned for every submission that was put onto council, and an estimated return rate of 65 days for every planning application. Now, that was for even those things that those were only for those that didn't go to court, and when there was no community outrage for the things that they were putting forward. Now, does anyone know about this? It's the proposed east-west link in Melbourne. I think you guys have something similar here in Wellington, a tunnel to connect the two different sides of the cities. That was the proposed tunnel. It didn't get built, so this is, I'm just highlighting this for a specific purpose, not necessarily that I fall into any political divide, or Code for Australia does. But this is known as one of the biggest urban planning fiascos in at least Victorian history. It didn't get built, and it has cost the state $430 million for not doing anything. But urban planning is just the peak of the iceberg. The Sunlight Foundation has estimated this, that 94% of IT governments over $10 million fail. And I want to pause and reflect on this, because most of the time it's not a courtyard extension, it's not a tunnel, it is things that impact people who have a lot more at stake than what we do. People who interact with government services are mostly those who need social housing, or they need benefits, or somehow they need a little bit of help. Just a couple of examples. In New South Wales, the Department of Education was meant to release an integrated program to get kids to have all their records integrated from K to 12, which will make an easier transition for them to go to TAFE or to go to university. Now, I think 5 years down the track, or more than that, the state is trying to outsource that because they're still finding bugs with the system that students are still not able to engage in, to enroll in TAFE. And here is the minister saying we need to still continue to pour in money to this system because we haven't even solved it yet. That is 535 million, and it's still going. Moving on to Victoria, the court system, they wanted to do something similar to kids with student records, but for those attending courts. So the idea was that if you move, then you go to a different court, and then you can easily transfer your case. But also you could track the case at which state it was, because most of the time you say, hey, you need to attend court. And then the next thing you know is here's the date that you need to go to court. In between, you don't have anything, and by the time it gets resolved, you don't have any of that information. Here you can see that there was a review being done in 2010. I think it was meant to be done in 2012. It wasn't. It never got launched, and that was up to 66 million. We have also documented several websites that mostly for enrolling on Centrelink benefits or into housing benefits that are down for maintenance after hours or on weekends. I don't have a slide because the press, that's just the status quo, and the press, they just don't find it amusing to be putting stuff like that. And a lot has been written about the growing mistrust there is between us as citizens and government, and I think you can draw a direct line from the examples that I just gave and the incompetence of adopting digital technology within government. But, and it's much about this inability to adopt digital technology as much as it is about the political divide that exists between our parties. So we live in a world that we believe that everything can be done with our phones. And when citizens' expectations are so high that we want to do everything from our phones, and we can't even enroll in a system, or we can't even register for something after hours, no wonder why we're giving up in government. As someone from the board at Code for America says, we need to move government towards a platform. And it's a platform that allows citizens, public servants, and industry to come together and work on issues that affect us all. And this is what we want to do as a platform. I won't read you the questions, but this is essentially what we want to do at Code for Australia. And it's a big problem. It's pretty large, and we're a small non-profit that is trying to tackle this and trying to get on government to build new ways of doing this. And we're very hopeful, and we do believe this, that government can work. But the thing is, government can work if we're not, it will work, and the problem is fixable, but it's not fixable if we're relying on someone else to do it for us. There is a new digital transformation office in Australia, which is funded by the federal government, and it has a lot of backing, but they're not superheroes. And we shouldn't be relying on someone else to do it for us to fix what's broken. It's going to take all of us at all levels of government, but also as citizens and industry to be able to contribute that. At Code for Australia, we have a program called the Fellowship, which a team of 3, a developer, a community organizer, and a designer join a government agency for a period of time to try to do things differently. This is Alicia, Ruth, and Rosie. They worked with us on a fellowship with the City of Melbourne, and their role was to find robust problems to put forward to GovHack, to get that agency ready to participate at GovHack. We only focused on the research component, no prototyping, no building, no hacking. It was just building, it was just researching problems. And we did that for two reasons. The first one was to highlight the importance of looking at projects through an entrepreneurial lens, but also to make GovHack better. A little bit of background about GovHack, which, has anyone not heard about GovHack? 1, 2, 3. Right. So it's an annual hackathon where community meets government, and the idea is that government puts forward challenges and the community tries new ways to address these challenges through a 48 hours over a weekend. It's been going on for 5 years, and this year it went overseas to New Zealand. One of the issues that we have been experiencing is that some organizers of GovHack have found an interesting problem where they have too much sponsorship for their event. And also, which I hope we had that problem at Hot Australia. The other problem that we're finding is that when governments pose a challenge and the community is trying to address to solve those challenges, the resources, which most of the time is data, is not available, or it's not available in a readable format for them to be able to solve those challenges. So with Alicia, Ruth, and Rosie, what they did was find 3 robust challenges to put forward to the community, but also accelerate the resources able to solve those. And with GovHack, they created, one of the things that they created was this. It's Path to Safety, which I think it also was done or replicated here in New Zealand. It's basically, it says, if you want to go from A to B, this is the safest place based on statistics about crime at different points in time. So it can help me to do that as a foreigner to Wellington, but it can also, as a parent, I can say to my kids, don't hang around this area because it's unsafe. This is our second fellowship. The guy in the blue shirt, his name is Steve, and he did our first fellowship at Code for Australia. His mission was to populate a new data repository that was only available for researchers. So he was going around asking for data from government agencies and making cool stuff. Now everyone thought that Steve was going to create complicated algorithms to find out what the Environment Protection Office and the City of Melbourne were doing with their data. But for him, his first, or his biggest thing was making that accessible to those who not necessarily would interact with that data, otherwise it was made into an easy format. So he created this, and one of the things that he created, it's a dashboard for the City of Melbourne. Just like the City of Melbourne's website, it says pretty much everything that you need to know, but only that it looks prettier. And also that it's updated all on open data. So no one is curating that content. Once it was built, that's how it stays, and it updates automatically. Second show and tell, his name is Peter. He did a fellowship as well with the Department of Education in New South Wales, and he built this. It's an app to locate a school and school-related facilities. Just like, pretty sure that it's the same case here in Wellington, that catchment areas are a pretty big thing that can almost move property prices depending on the school. So as a parent, you go around looking for your school and you don't know if your house I guess belongs to that school, or if that school belongs to your house, whichever way that is. So here it's a one-stop shop that you can do that.
Do we have a hashtag for this tool?
Open data easy.
Thank you.
So it's a single repository, a single point of contact for that, so less time for parents to looking around schools, but also less time for schools to give out that information on the phone, and also making sure that their websites are updated. So all of this pulls that information. He also built an algorithm to measure the school performances. So in Australia, we normally use NAPLAN, which basically measures how much money the school is getting, and then it says that's a really good school. But he created an algorithm that measures the school performance based on the kids' records. So if you started as a pretty bad student, but you ended up as a HD student, that's a really good school because it improved your marks. We're still dealing with launching that because there's a couple of issues with NAPLAN, like they don't want us to use it. But hopefully it will be out soon. Last show and tell, this is, apart from the fellowship, we also have an incubator, which is just like any other incubator, but this is a little bit different. It's centered on building civic technology. We run that with the Public Transport Agency in Victoria to build apps to improve the way that people interface with public transport. And that can mean something like this. Has anyone been to Melbourne in the last couple of years? Right, a couple of years. So the state launched a couple of years ago a safety awareness campaign, and they painted giant rhinos all over the trams to say, if you get hit by a rhino, it's worth, like, I don't know, 300 rhinos or 30 rhinos. I always forget the number. So here you can see all the trams that are in Melbourne. They're rhinos. And you can also see the rhinos that are in the zoo. So it's a silly app, but again, it's changing the way that we interact and we see how technology can change the perception of our urban infrastructure. And as you see, these are sort of the problems that we tackle by the dozens of Code for Australia, which most of them are interfaces between citizens and government. And based on this website, there are quite a few of these. Every tab has at least 20 government websites as part of that. And so I'm just keeping track of that I don't miss anything. And most of this work happens through our Civic Lab as well. So our Civic Lab program is a meetup where government, citizens, and industry meet together to talk about whatever is of interest. So it could be industry saying, hey, we've got this new technology, come and play with it and give us your feedback. It could be a government agency seeking feedback on something specific that they are about to launch or a new strategy, or it could be a citizen pitching a new project for a government. This is an example of something that got built in Boston out of this hack nights, and it's an app to adopt a fire hydrant. So it's a silly game between you and I as a resident to adopt a fire hydrant, name the fire hydrant, and then live data going to the city of Boston saying, don't look after that fire hydrant, it's being taken care of. We're replicating that with trees in the city of Melbourne, and then that is allowing to us adopt trees and then live data to the city of Melbourne saying, don't look after this tree, it's being taken care of. And I guess the reason, one thing that you see across these things is how replicable these things are from city to city. And it's not only the code that it allows us to spread, everything that we develop is open source, which means that you can copy and paste here. All we need is that data to be available within that city, and we can replicate it and have a free app. But it's not only the code that allows to do that, but it also allows for citizens to have a channel to contribute not only their voices but their hands in building something that matters. And why do we do this? It's because it develops more transparency, efficiency, and stronger relationships between citizens, governments, and industry, which we know they're not at their best. On the transparency bit, we're pretty, I guess, strong advocates of opening data. And we do that for different reasons. So on the transparency side, we can know anything from how our taxes are being spent to something more into what is happening in my city and how can I get involved before anything else, before it goes out to consultation. Also, open data allows for economic growth, which, as you know, Australia is moving out from a manufacturing economy, and these numbers will make it very appealing for the government to be spending anything around open data. I guess individually, those projects are not going to revolutionize the bureaucracies in our government, but over time and meet together, they represent not only how citizens can meaningfully engage in the public service and how policy implementation should be taken into account these things, but also it redefines what democracy looks like in the 21st century, where governments become more open and more open not only to receive ideas but also to test them, where citizens roll up their sleeves and are able to contribute to applications and technologies that get developed within that government, and industry moves from I guess a sales perspective to a contributor to this ecosystem. At Code for Australia, we aren't called Code for Australia, but by coding we mean not waiting for things to happen and for us to get permission and to get budget, but literally rolling up our sleeves, and whether it's shoveling snow or whether it's coding an app or designing a new government website, we're doing it. So that's why I was mentioning that hopefully it's the code that allows us to do that, but whether you're a coder or not, whether you can spend 2 hours or a year with us, with a fellowship, or not only with us, but with opportunities for you to contribute to your government agency, we can redefine the way that this place where we live exists, where our communities are healthier, and where democracy is something that is redefined into the 21st century. So I would invite you to Code for New Zealand. So that's all. Does anyone have questions?
I think it's really cool. So just to give some context first, I work for Parliamentary Service, and I can absolutely see the value of this. But in terms of ongoing maintenance of these sites, if you look at some of these sites, I imagine could become quite important to people as they use them. So if you look at the one, for example, that you have for schools, that information needs to remain current. And if you, as the currency of the information drops, the value drops. So I'd like to sort of get your view on how we ensure that these sites don't create anything just for them.
Mm-hmm. So I guess there's two components on that. The first component is this is the applications of the technology is what gets the glitter out of the program, but actually what the fellowship does, and what most of the programs, what they do, is re-energizing what exists and what is defined as public service. So in developing that app, we've prototyped maybe 12 different applications, and out of those 12 applications, there might have been some at HR, some at community engagement. So then people start realizing that open data might be a cool thing. Developing applications and digitizing things might be something of interest. So over that process, what we're doing is building that capability to be sustainable. Also, in the last 2 months of the fellowship program, it's hands-off. Like whatever you build, it's done, and what did we learn, and how can we scale it to make sure that it's sustainable. All of our programs, we bring in industry as well, and that is to build the sustainability of anything that we build, whether that was a training program or a process that we found that it was cool. One thing that we're doing is trying to embed, so ourselves, we do on meeting to do the work together. So instead of us meeting and then having tasks to follow up on and send us emails about, we just do the meeting to actually get the stuff doing. So not sure if that completely answers your question.
It's sustainability in particular that I was asking about. I think you covered it off. So it's not just a matter of creating a website. You're also having to hand it off, I guess, to the organisation, or a number of organisations that will take care of it after. Is that right?
Yeah. And it's all open source, so like either you or the fellows or someone else completely can take ownership of that product and then continue as a company later on.
How do you deal with data sort of security issues? Is it all open source data, or is it, how do you get around things like data protection, for example?
So, for example, with the Department of Education, we had a couple of issues. First of all, with the the school catchment areas. So that wasn't necessarily a security issue, but it was something that it was very, I guess, into that blurry line of if we release this, then what about property prices? Like we know that property developers look at those sort of stats. Of course, we're not going to be working with sensitive data, so we work with data that will actually contribute towards what we believe is something worth doing. And if it's something like the property, the catchment areas, we believe that we work with the Department of Education to release that.